I think, I mean, now we've done some like very cliche-laden things with Hic Svnt Dracones. You know, we have the privateers and pirates of the 16th century. A lot of bands are doing pirates, and the last, not the least, being my former band Visions of Atlantis, who've made it their thing now, of course.
Yeah.
You have millions of bands in the power metal or metal overall doing Viking and Nordic mythology. So that was kind of the plan with this album, to do a little bit of a meta commentary on this.
Siegfried, it's been a week now that the album is out. Last time I spoke to you, which usually, you know, we interview people before an album is out, sometimes after, which is fun. So I've never seen you right after an album release. What kind of Siegfried do I have in front of me? Are you a lot more relaxed now that it's out, or is like, well, now the hectic stuff is really starting? What's the mentality right now for you?
Yeah, I think now the bit more relaxed version is accurate. So because there was a lot of course promo work to be done right before the album release. So the last 2 to 3 weeks were pretty busy. The last video single came out. You want to do that promotion, of course, for those releases, and then try to get in as much promo as possible before the actual album release, so to get the most out of it. But yeah, now it's out. Been out a week. We played a nice show right after the release in the UK at Power Metal Quest Fest in Birmingham this past Saturday. Kind of a nice way to celebrate the release. And now we have another show upcoming in November and in December, and then the big touring kind of starts in early 2025 for us. Yeah,
exactly. So this is your moment to relax, and then they make you do more interviews. Like, come on, what's going on a Friday? Well, I do apologize for that, but hey, you know, people want to talk about your album, so I hope it's cool. Let's start with something really fun at first, which I always love these little details. In the Sunt of Hic Svnt Dracones, as we expect from Latin, written with a V, but a V obviously have a double meaning, and it has a different color than the rest of the text. A little nod to the fact this is the 5th album.
That is exactly right, and you're actually the first one and only one so far to pick that out. So that was my personal touch there that I wanted to, and you're the only one who got it.
Awesome. Now, this is not the first, let's call it, layered cover art that you've used so far. Are there hidden gems out there, or little things that you hidden that people have not figured out in the previous works?
In the previous works, I think not so much. I think the others artworks were pretty much on the nose with their messages. I mean, like Viribus Unitis, of course, had all the main characters of that concept story on it. On Shadowplay, we had like different elements from the songs of the album on those like magic cards that were coming to life, like the wolves, for example, for Wolves of the North. So it's been a bit more on the nose with those ones. Yeah, I think this one has probably the most hidden meanings, not just in the album title, but also in some of the song titles, actually.
Okay, all right. So we can all go dig a little deeper and have some more fun with that. Awesome. Now, I will say, I already posted about that before I did this interview, so I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass. I love this album. I think it's a lot of fun. I think this is the most, and I don't know if it's the right word, but like, because you've always had a lot of energy in Dragony, but I feel like this is maybe even the most energized we've seen the band. There's a lot of punch to this album. There's a heaviness that we haven't always had with you guys.
Yeah, that's true.
I know obviously there's been some changes in the band as well, but what for you, if you now look back on everything, and now that maybe, I don't know if you've already had a chance to take that step back and reflect a little bit more on this particular journey, what do you think are those factors that make this album just a little bit different when it comes to that power level?
Yeah, I think the two main factors are, of course, on the one hand, our new guitarist, Matt, and then secondly, the fact that mix and master was this time done by Jacob Hansen.
Right.
So I think those factors contribute a lot because, of course, individual performances are also important from everybody. I think I also did a pretty good job on my lead vocals this time, better than on previous ones, like a slight step up for me personally. but especially the guitar work, because it has been always sort of a point of contention for Dragony, that we've had like a lot of focus on orchestra, which we still do have on this album as well.
Right.
But I think that the guitar parts in general are a bit more diverse. There's more stuff going on, which is a lot thanks to Matt. He is like very creative with this kind of stuff to find the right kind of riff or pattern to put underneath a song or to accompany with. So I think, and his playing style, of course, is also much more, let's say, aggressive, just the way he plays compared to our other guitarists. So that's a big change. And then Jacob Hansen, is one of the best engineers in metal today, not only for symphonic metal, but that's one of his specialties, I would say. And I think he was really able to also get the most out of those individual performances sound-wise. So I think those two factors really make this, I would say, the best sounding Dragony so far. And like I said, the one that probably packs the biggest punch.
Yeah. Have you then also already seen when the show that you played, and as you guys were rehearsing for all these upcoming shows, that with the new team, if you will, some of the older songs have changed quite a bit since they were recorded? Are they coming to life in a different way now?
Of course, because everybody like plays differently, of course. And again, I go back to Matt, who's playing a lot of the parts that our previous guitarist Andy would play, especially solos that he would have on his songs. And I would say that Matt adds a lot of his own personal touch to those solos, like spicing them up a little bit. So that's definitely a big change there. For the overall performance, maybe a little, because everybody plays a little differently and has a little bit of a different groove. But I think the old songs work pretty much the same. But especially on the new ones, you can really notice the difference also in the songwriting, of course.
Yeah. Okay. We'll get back to some more shows later, I'm sure. But let's dive into the album as well. As we're getting started, Viribus Unitis, the previous album, was well received. You guys were nominated for awards as well. Did that create some unwanted pressure going into this one?
I would say so. But I think the pressure more like coming from ourselves, because, if you get like pretty good feedback from various sides, and then it was not only just a good feedback, it was like also this kind of feedback where it was like, it was very good, and it will be very hard to top this one, like this kind of thing. And I was like, okay,
oh, thanks.
Okay, thanks. That's good. It's a good sign, I would say, but I think that at the end we actually managed it with this one, because I think both songwriting point of view, it's our probably most diverse album so far. I think there's something for everybody on this album. If you like some power metal, no matter if it's like the more modern or more old school power metal, we have, I think, a little bit for everybody. Then, of course, the individual performances and the production, everything is kind of a step up from the previous. Even though previous one I was also pretty happy with, to be honest. We also worked with, say, Levermann on the mix and master for that. He also did a fantastic job, I think. But it's just overall, I think it was the first step into this kind of new direction with Viribus Unitis, and now kind of perfecting this model with Hic Svnt Dracones.
Now, I know that in many other interviews you've already had to explain at length the story that is being told, so I'll try not to bug you too much of that. I mean, for people that are watching this for the first time, this story is a pseudo-historic version of what may have happened in the Lost Colony of Roanoke. Twisting history is something that you have fun with, before already. I invite everybody to watch the many interviews that you've already had to do about all the specifics, where you've been able to add, Viking mythology to that, which is really cool. But on the previous album, you've tackled Kaiser Franz Josef and Sissi, so we know that now nothing in history is sacred for you, because if an Austrian turns Sissi into a
Holy Grail,
you can kind of do anything. So emboldened by that sentiment, what's on your wish list? Like, what are some of those specific stories that other people might stay away from that you go like, I'm gonna have some fun with that?
I think, now we've done some like very cliche-laden things with Hic Svnt Dracones. We have the privateers and pirates of the 16th century. A lot of bands are doing pirates, and the last, not the least, being my former band Visions of Atlantis, who've made it their thing now, of course. You have millions of bands in the power metal or metal overall doing Viking and Nordic mythology. So that was kind of the plan with this album, to do a little bit of a meta commentary on this. Many of those cliches that are just recurring and regurgitated basically time and time again. And I think those were the most popular ones in recent memory, like the pirates, Vikings, which are like evergreens in the metal scene and the Norse mythology, but also dinosaurs, which have been fairly popular in the more modern power metal recently. So we wanted to kind of, add a little bit of exclamation mark to that by not just taking one of those cliches, but taking all of them and say, okay, yeah, so this is the power metal of today, basically the most power metal album of the year. So that's kind of the commentary on this one. I think for the future, we would look to be a bit more obscure again, maybe a bit more like creative, you could say, in the sense that with Viribus Unitis, we went into Austrian history, which is not, the biggest country in the world, so not that many people.
Not anymore.
Not anymore, exactly. Probably thankfully so. And but there's interesting things you could do. I mean, bands have done Middle Ages to death. I would probably go back to, let's say, ancient Roman or Greek times, maybe. So that could be interesting. That's not been so frequently done. I mean, Egypt has been done, I think, like those kind of things. Also, of course, like any kind of history in Asia, but that's also pretty popular right now in video games. If you think about games like the Japanese feudal era, something like that. So there's just a myriad of options. I don't know if we stay with the alternate history thing for an upcoming album, but it's definitely a possibility to make the trifecta, the trilogy of the Latin titled albums. Let's see.
Yeah, for sure. Now you say like Egypt has been done, but I feel like it's always either Ramses II or Cleopatra. And there's like there's like 10,000 more years of history there.
Anyway. No, we just take this one.
Awesome. Exactly. Awesome. Now. You mentioned we've seen a lot of dinosaurs recently in power metal, but you are right. We see a lot of Japanese manga influences, anime influences, which is kind of funny because like a lot of these anime shows that have now inspired a whole generation of Western kids, whether it's through video games or through TV shows, they often took a lot of influence from 80s, American heavy metal. That's kind of come full circle. We've seen that here in North America on the rise like crazy in the last few years with those kind of, conferences, Comic Cons are huge. And it kind of goes hand in hand with the rise to power, I guess, of power metal in North America. Like we're all of a sudden seeing this hunger in the last few years for Europe, let's call it classic or European power metal. And you mentioned Visions of Atlantis. They've been here a few times now. Powerwolf was just here. Sabaton is here right now. And you've got festivals like Prague Power and Mad with Power that are getting bigger and bigger every year. So I guess, long story short, when can we see you here?
Well, hopefully soon. Like it's really not that up to us because I think the trick would be, to find a promoter that's interested in bringing Dragony over. Can be for festival, like you said, Prague Power or Mad with Power would be very good fits, of course. Doing a full tour or even as a support act, that's kind of a challenge for a smaller band like us because, we have to basically pay everything out of our own pockets for this kind of tour. We will not be getting any fees. We'd be just a support act. So that's a huge investment for any band, and you can do it if you play the long game basically and expect to do it like not maybe once but maybe 2 or 3 times as a support act and then come back as a headlining act now. So then it starts paying off, but that's like a huge upfront risk that you take also. And for us, all of our guys except for our new guitar player, we're not full-time musicians. I mean, Herb is now in Visions of Atlantis, of course, and Matt, he's working in the studio. But the rest of us, we have our regular jobs and everything. And to try to do a 1 or 2 month tour through the US and invest all your money in that, and you don't know if it's going to work out, and it's like, it comes with a big risk. And I don't think that at this stage of our lives, this year, I don't think I'm going to take that risk anymore. If I was in my early 20s and, label would say, we're going to put you on tour for a month in the US, I'd say, hell yeah, let's go. But right now, like a full tour is a little bit unrealistic. I mean, never say never. We did a 2 weeks tour of Mexico last year, but that was a bit of a different situation because we had a promoter who brought us over and who was basically sponsoring us to go there.
Right.
So under these circumstances, we go any day.
For sure. Is that purely your own maturity, or is there a level of like Austrian down-to-earthness in that?
I think both things play into that. I mean, but you see, like even for Austrians, like we have a few bands that have made that jump, like Serenity have been around for a while, and they're not like the guys are not full-time musicians only. Like for example, Georg, of course, he is still a professor of history, right? So that's still different. I mean, Vision of Atlantis, they're kind of doing it full-time now, but even so, like Thomas is still working as one of the main guys in Napalm Records.
And the only Austrian at this point as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, not sure.
Michele is working for Napalm on the side while in the band. So it's kind of, so there are those guys that actually go outside the comfort zone. But I think for Dragony, it's a little bit difficult because all of us were kind of like, we have our jobs, we like them. And then, we just have like, those 5 weeks of paid vacation every year, and then that limits your touring ability. So we have to pick our spots kind of, but it's very hard for us to do like a big tour that would be probably very profitable in the sense of exposure to go on a, like, let's say 2-month run with a band like Powerwolf or Beast in Black. First of all, it's very hard to get that slot because there's of course other bands vying for that spot that might be a bit younger and a bit more, where people see more potential for the future, as opposed to a band that has been around longer. So that's tricky. That's the first tricky part, and the second tricky part is then to actually make this money and time wise happen, because it comes with a lot of risks and a lot of upfront investment.
The one silver lining here is that if a promoter does want to bring you over for a festival, then visas have to be cleared anyway. Those visas are very expensive, but they last for a little bit, at least a year, sometimes a little longer. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that a promoter brings you over, and then that you guys go like, well, if part of the funding is already done, maybe let's just add a few more shows a few months later.
I mean, I think that's definitely a feasible option. Like if something like that would happen, we'd definitely entertain thought of like adding, a couple of shows, because if you already make that trip, it's quite far. It makes sense to do one show, but maybe do at least 4 or 5, like try to do a week with like 2 or 3 shows every week. So that would make sense for sure.
Yeah. All right. So Ty from Might of Power, if you're listening, you need a few more headliners for your festival. Let's bring.
If you're also the Trident, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, it's a super fun festival that has grown again over the last few years insanely.
I've also just really gotten into the band, kind of like checking them out because I really love their social media stuff. The Ty has been doing also this like singer impressions, for different characters and stuff, like really fun stuff.
I mean, Lords of the Trident and Dragony would be a really cool package for any power metal fan. Anybody that is like not afraid to dunk themselves in some cheese while having quality music, that would be a great package. Oh, I'd love to see you guys on the road together.
Yeah.
We were talking about how, like, the Japanese influence now on power metal, and that it kind of drew its own kind of influence from heavy metal back in the day. Another thing that is so tied to power metal and heavy metal is like crappy horror movies, and a lot of 80s movies had like those heavy metal soundtracks. Just asking, because as we're talking, we're like 2 weeks away from Halloween. I know it's obviously a much bigger thing here in North America than it is in Europe, but I'm sure that the commerciality of it has grown. Is that something for you? Like, are you like, do you enjoy like those crappy old 80s horror movies, and will help you?
I'm a huge horror movie nerd, and my better half Maria also. So that's basically all the movies or shows we watch is always just horror stuff, because it's really the only genre that we really universally love. Even though there's a ton of crap, we try to find the pearls. Like we're like in terms of recent releases, we're big fans of anything Mike Flanagan does. Haunting of Hill House, this kind of stuff. I think he's the one who really gets actual horror that's actually creepy and not just jump scares, because jump scares are not scary, jump scares are startling, and there's a difference between that and, I mean, a good slasher movie or whatever, they have every right to exist. But I've never been the big slasher guy. I think the only one I really liked from the 80s was Nightmare on Elm Street, because it also had that supernatural element to it. But there's something like the actual Halloween movies or Friday the 13th stuff. This was never my kind of thing. It's just like slasher gory stuff. I mean, I watch them and I know them, but it's not my go-to thing in the horror genre. So yeah. terms of like crappy 80s, I have seen too many. Basically, every second Stephen King adaptation is usually a crappy 80s or early 90s TV movie. So it's very hard to say. Top of my head, but there's so many. I think right now, the closest that you would get to kind of a revival of this like 80s slasher thing are the Terrifier movies.
Right.
I think those are like really popular right now, and they, I think, have that spirit of those old 80s classics.
Yeah, for sure. In like the Flanagan stuff with like Hunting for House Hill. What's cool about those as well is those little details in the background, right? Where like if you don't watch the people up front in the camera, but more in the background, there's so much going on. Kind of brings us back to your album with the V in the title and everything. Awesome. Now we know that there is European shows coming with Sirius Black. I think you kick it off in March, if I'm not mistaken.
We're kicking off in March. I mean, we're not part of the whole tour. The whole tour goes for about 3 weeks. And again, as I said, for time reasons, for me, job-wise, like going on tour for 3 weeks is tough. So I have to put myself to kind of 2 weeks. That's what I can do. So we'll skip the first week of the tour, which is some shows in Germany and Hungary, I think. But then we'll join for the show in Vienna. And from here, we'll join them until the end of the tour in Munich. So we go through Germany, Switzerland, Spain, and France, which are still to be announced, some dates in France. So that's like kind of the highlight for me on this tour, because in France, we've only played once before, and Spain not all, and there would be 3 dates in Spain. So that's a big important factor for me to do this tour, and of course to come back to Germany, play a lot of shows there, because that's a market that of course always works great for metal and for power metal. And even though we play there a lot, it's so huge, you just have to do it all the time and go as often as you can. And we really need to do that.
You can have a successful career just in Germany if you needed to, as a European metal band, for sure. But Spain is a growing market as well, so that will be super exciting. I keep my fingers crossed to see you guys play in 2025, because I know you won't be able to play only new songs, but I do really like the new album, so I hope to see these shows. These
play a lot of them.
Good. Last time we got to interview, I wrapped us up with a question about Austrian cuisine, because I'm a big Kaiserschmarrn fan, and I asked you what's better, Kaiserschmarrn or Sachertorte, and I think you agreed with me in those days. Like Kaiserschmarrn was maybe just a little bit less touristic. To kind of mirror that, do you prefer to go for the ultra touristic classic Schnitzel, or is a Gröstel better?
In this, that's a close call, because Schnitzel is a bit more, like I said, the touristic thing, and that's the one dish you would always associate with Austria, kind of. Gröstel is nice, but I think both being well done, I would probably, in this case, still go for the Schnitzel.
All right, cool, fantastic. Now we know what to find you when you come to Toronto. We'll find a place that maybe you just want to have some Canadian food when you're here. Who knows?
Yes,
but
some pancakes with maple syrup.
There you go. Absolutely. Siegfried, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate having the chance to talk to you after the album is out, when a lot of people have already heard it and are having fun with it. We'll keep our fingers crossed to see more announcements of shows as far as your vacation time allows for. And I will keep my fingers extra crossed that we get to see you guys sooner rather than later on this side of the Atlantic. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you also. Have a great weekend and see you soon.
You are awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it and subscribe to the channel.